Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting minutes from June 2nd are approved.
Wait, we're approving the agenda.
Oh, agenda, I'm sorry, I skipped it.
Chair,
Yes?
could you just check, with staff whether I'm allowed to vote?
Yes.
We have to authorize it.
Yes,
he's voted to approve.
Okay,
Do we need to authorize participation
Yes.
virtual of the chair?
Yes.
Okay, to be safe, we will vote on this.
okay,
The first item to vote, I would like to authorize participation online of our chair, Mr. Peterson.
To allow Mr. Peterson to participate, virtually, at today's meeting.
I will be voting against that because I was denied the privilege of voting last meeting. So
Well, first we have a motion to approve. by
Participation, isn't there a participation and then voting,
And
right?
the participation,
two separate.
okay, so first motion would be to approve participation of our chair, Peter
We have a motion for that.
Partington,
And I
second by Roosevelt,
I'll second.
second by James Rodriguez, sorry. Any discussion?
No.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so the motion to approve participation of Peter Partington virtually for today's meeting is approved. The second motion would be to authorize our chair, Peter Partington, to be a voting member during today's meeting. And the second?
Second, Gregory.
Second by Gregory. Any discussion, comments, concerns? Yes, James.
So I'm just asking why we would do that, because we didn't allow the last time we had a virtual member, we didn't allow him to vote.
So the resolution changed on July 8th, we were notified that the resolution changed.
Oh, it was
So that's-
changed,
yes.
okay, thank you for clarification,
So now we have to authorize.
yes. That it's okay to do it, because we're allowed to authorize now, before we weren't,
Okay, well, that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's no one.
yeah.
Yes, there is.
It's nothing personal, we were not able to authorize to vote if you participate.
Understood, that's reasonable, and it's not going to be discriminated against. Just because I'm a retired civil engineer.
Yeah, right.
But that's a good point, thank you for clarifying.
Yeah.
That's excellent.
Okay, any more comments on this item? Okay, so, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so Peter,
thank you, thank you.
you are authorized as a participant and a voting member for today's meeting.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'm sorry, I'm approval of the agenda, so agenda for today's meeting, it's present, and the items that we need to remove or topic, new business, hearing none, so do I have a motion to approve today's meeting agenda?
I move,
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
aye,
And opposed? Hearing none, so the meeting agenda has been approved. And I'm sorry, staff, the meeting minutes were also, right?
not yet,
Okay.
we haven't approved.
The June 2nd, the previous meeting,
You start
it was,
with when you
that
start.
was already approved? Yes. Okay, thank you, sorry, okay. Okay, well, that's the now we can move to the old business, but before we do that, so there's no old business. But I do wanna recognize some new faces in the meeting. I see the Public Works Director, Brad Payne. Welcome, good afternoon.
Pleasure to be here.
Tell us a little bit about your new role and, how long you've been on this duty already, and
Sure.
the challenges, how we can help.
Sure. Well, I've been here a couple weeks. Time is really fast. I feel like I just got here, but it's been actually a few weeks already. Just kind of getting myself acclimated with everything. Just background-wise, I've spent the majority of my career in Broward County. I was the Public Works and Utilities Director for the City of Weston for 7.5 years. I was also the Public Works and Utilities Director for the City of Dania Beach for 4.5 years. I worked the last 5.5 years, though, in the City of Miami Beach as their Sanitation Director, and for the last year I was their Public Works Director. A lot of the coastal community issues I'm very familiar with, very similar issues to the cities that there's a lot of synergy there in what's gone on the beach and what some of Fort Lauderdale's challenges are. So, I'm coming here, I'm excited. I know there's a lot of work to be done, and just bear with me a little bit in the beginning. Give me a little bit of time to get acclimated, and we will certainly try to help as much as possible to get a lot of these projects done and be efficient as possible, and moving forward to help correct some of the issues that we currently are facing, challenges.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. And, whatever the other people told you about us, that's not true.
Okay. I'll take note of that.
It's not true, but we did expect you to obviously hit the ground running. And so when you hit the ground running, it requires no preparation. So
Don't worry, I've lost a lot of tread on my worksheet.
yeah.
But, well, we want to be helpful to you, so, if we are helping you do your job, that's the main thing. Right? Sometimes we want to add 2 cents a week here from our neighbors, make sure that gets passed along. But, if you feel like we're not helpful, please let us know.
Sure. I mean, I think coming from a structure of a lot of committees, I believe in the city we have like 45 of them. So I find that they always add value, and vice versa. If we can help you, if you can help us, I think it's a great partnership. And that's what this is all about. It's about sharing information and being able to see where we can improve upon to make the day-to-day life for all the residents better.
James?
Right, I want to welcome you as well, and Jim LeBrie, been on the committee for a couple of years. Sounds like you've got a pretty extensive background, which is really great. You've made a good hire, it seems. We're pretty informal here. We're going to call you Brad. You can call me Jim or whatever. If you have, I know you've only been on the job a couple of weeks, but could you tell us what you think the 1 and 2 biggest concerns you have right now getting started?
Boy, talk about tough questions. Listen, coming from a municipality that had a lot of utility infrastructure challenges, particularly related to flooding and stormwater, Fortify Fort Lauderdale is a really good program that's going to be probably very instrumental in making sure that we continue to help secure our future for our infrastructure. I know that there's a lot of aging infrastructure here. A lot of those pipes under the ground probably need to be replaced. It's a lot of that. So I think the challenges, we also have some issues with FDEP and consent orders from things that have happened in the past, and it's kind of working through those projects as well, and just being able to make sure we find all the funding to do these things, so we can be in compliant and so we can continue to, again, it's about improving the lives of the residents of the community. And a lot of those projects with infrastructure, that's what they really are. And doing those things also help preserve for the long term, and that's what you have to look at when you're in this business. It's not just today, the Band-Aids, but about long term and how you're going to do things so long term you don't have as many issues, as you have. So there'll be challenges, certainly there, and it's kind of going to be just my job to kind of work through those things and make sure we have all the correct staff in place, that can, help execute those things. So I would think probably those are, some of the bigger challenges I see, kind of off the bat. But again, I kind of hit the ground running and, working through a lot of these, day-to-day things and, trying to make improvements where I feel that long term, it's going to end up something a lot better shape than we are today.
Thank you for that, appreciate it. And again, I'll just reiterate what some others have said. This committee is very supportive of the Public Works Department. We know people are working very, very hard to accomplish some big things, so we appreciate that. We'll work with you.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Yeah.
Ralph Zeltman, welcome also again. And I'm the civil engineer on this task force. My concerns have been primarily from day one, like 7.5 years ago. The sanitary sewer vitrified clay pipe that's obviously outlived its usefulness and has deteriorated. Over the 7.5 years since I've been here, I don't think I've really seen what I would call an extraordinary effort in trying to either in situ form the salvageable vitrified clay pipe so that it doesn't crumble. But we're doing it at such a slow pace that time is deteriorating the vitrified clay pipe so that you won't be able to utilize like the in situ form or slip line process to salvage the pipe without having to dig up the neighborhoods. And I'm finding that there's not really, we've just been keeping even with that deterioration process, and that the barometer is the wastewater treatment plant, and that is, there's still a lot of fresh groundwater coming into that, and it hasn't been diminished, along with sand that's in there. So I hope that you'll provide a new leadership on that one particular area, that we can make notable gains, because we're still paying for that the sewage, the groundwater as sewage as it goes in. Anyway, enough of that. Welcome on.
Thank you.
Would you like our little one-liners around typically where we come from?
Sure.
Mechanical engineer, retired telecommunications project manager.
Victoria Park.
I am Roosevelt Walters. I'm just an agitator. I believe in getting the job done with the least amount of cost. I believe in hiring the best to get the best of the work done. And that is not necessarily the process when we come to government. We like the government to talk. And I am one that don't really corner from that. And you have your hand trying to keep the sewer system, waterways, the jailhouse, the city hall. These are things that's going to be repairs. And we just have to be a committee that will push for what we think is best for the city.
Well, congratulations again. I'm Marta Metzko. My professional career, I'm assistant director for Signal Market.
Ralph Zeltman again. I'm a retired civil engineer, primarily in utilities and structural. Enjoying the opportunity here to give city advice on various things that they have that need attention. And so I hope we can continue working as a team.
I'm Jim LaBrie, I'm retired, I live in Poinsettia Heights neighborhood, it's District 1. I'm not an engineer, so I guess I'm a citizen representative. But I have, well, my background is primarily healthcare, but very strong program director and project management.
Lindsay Way from District 4, Tarpon River. I'm on the board for our neighborhood and I'm in real estate and a lot of other things and want to improve our city. So anything you need.
Appreciate it.
Peter, I think you
Peter, do you wanna say anything?
Yes, just introduce myself to Brad. I'm Peter Huntington, I'm a retired professional engineer in another life. I did actually work for the city of Fort Lauderdale, and I'm hoping you'll continue the excellent work that the commission has underway. And I hope you don't regard us, I'd like to view the committee as anything that we say at first is constructive criticism. I don't wish any sort of adversarial situation would start with somebody said we are on the side of what the good side. Thanks, Greg.
Alright, well, that was our old business, I guess. We move on to the new business. And we do have some updates. Update on the sidewalk master plan and update on the bike path.
Yes. Where's best for me to be? There's an awful lot of screens going on here.
You have to be
Everybody's
covered,
busy.
so you
So far.
usually be
Very, very
busy. I'll stand in the middle
as long as
and
you're
you can
comfortable, so.
look at whichever one works for you all. So good afternoon, my name is Karen Warfel. I am the City of Fort Lauderdale's Transportation Planning Division Manager. I'm here to give you some updates on the sidewalk master plan as well as a little bit on the Lauderdale Trail project that our office is also managing. See my no? Okay. So the sidewalk master plan, I was here a while ago when we were first kicking off. I think we do have some new faces, so I'll talk a little bit about the purpose. So it is filling gaps. Where are we missing? I know Public Works works a lot in the fixing what we have, so this is new capacity. Where are we missing sidewalks? And it was very data driven. It was not community driven. It was where are we missing them? How do we prioritize? Because there's so much need. And we didn't have a way to really understand that in a holistic way before. So we've looked through that and gotten to there, and I'll talk about detail about how we've done it. In creating that, starting with our comprehensive layer, which was challenging to get the good data on the baseline so that we could get a good product in the end. A few touch points on community engagement. We worked with the Council of Civic Associations as representatives of all the different neighborhoods on some of that work, and then as well as looking at our policy and how it either benefits or retracts from us being able to do some sidewalks. So the type of gaps I talked a little bit, they're corridor wide, whole streets that are missing. This is, on the left is leading up to Bayview Elementary, there's no sidewalk getting kids to Bayview Elementary, as well as Victoria Park. On the right, there's a house, just one house missing a sidewalk in a whole street. So little gaps versus big gaps is what we'll be looking at. And as I mentioned, it was a technical process. We first started with, when I was here before, we were waiting on the LiDAR data that Public Works had commissioned. So we used that, but if you know anything about GIS, GIS is line-based, LiDAR is shape-based, so we had to do some finagling to get them to work together, which was the first step. We also used some other work through Public Works that was done for street sweeping and curb data to have as much data collected together and compare each and create that comprehensive layer across the whole city to have our baseline. And we had to really, before we got to the filling of gaps, do a lot of QA/QC. There was a new aerial that came out from the county, so we're able to compare that against our lines and check to see where we are missing. And I work with the consultant a lot, we were lucky he used to work in our office as well, so had a lot of familiarity with the city to know where to check things and make sure. So we took all of those gaps and layers, broke them into small little tiny segments, and then scored them, and I'll talk about how we scored them in a little bit more detail about all of this process, and then scored them, and then put them back together and created mean scores for whole corridors. So it worked to divide it up a little bit more if you're closer to a school or further to create that and have some differentiation. And then we weighted them and we put them back together, as I mentioned, and combined them to create the gaps in the streets and generate that mean and doing the tiers. So we divided into a bunch of tiers based on natural breaks in the scoring and grouped them together to create manageable priority lists going down. And I'll talk about that. So this is an example of some before and after, how some of the lines, you'll see that they're squiggly, they don't all come together, there's gaps. So the different data sources had different issues with their data, and then we put it together, and you can even see, like, this street is, on this one is green on one side, and here it's red, so there was a lot of challenges with the data, but we got through it, and we're really confident in our baseline data now to work with that. This is just another example of showing a more picture-y, so showing how we broke them down. Each little segment may have a score, and then we put them together to create that whole quarter, because we're not going to do 10 segments. Certainly.
But where you did this slide, the prior slide, you were showing some showing red, some showing green, it's the same street.
Yes, these are the same streets.
So it's the difference between the green and the red was determined by technology or by someone out there really looking on it.
It's a variety. Some of it was the LiDAR. Well, I guess it's all based on technology. Some was video based with the LiDAR that has a camera on it, and then it's put into a computer and it creates things that it sees through AI, if it's a sidewalk or what it is. Others I know was Google based, where a GIS technician was looking at Google and then putting it on the map. So we did find a lot of challenges with that data. Put it all together and did the QA QC. So the green is that there is a sidewalk, the red is that there isn't. So it was a lot more than we anticipated, I would say. We also did, as I mentioned, some public data collection. Last time I was here was before we had done that, so this after, just showing some of that collection. How do people use the streets? How would people use streets more? Pretty what we expected. You use it for activity and exercise, walking your pets, getting to and from places depending on what neighborhood you're in. And what would make you use it more is to make it safer. Have that safe place to walk on a sidewalk or separate further to allow you to do that. And lighting did come up a lot as well, some of the challenges we have with lighting. Yes, sir.
In your database, did you go to the extent of indicating which were the old, say, 4-inch thick, or actually it was like 3-inch and then 4-inch and now 6-inch thickness, and the also the strength?
We did not. Ours was purely, is there a sidewalk there or not?
I see.
So how do we fill in those gaps to create the network is what we were focused on. And I think, Public Works may get more into that of repair and quality in some of the work they do. We also did some dot exercises about prioritization and what's important to the community. So things that came up, the green dots are in favor of something that's a priority. Goods in the residential neighborhoods was consistent among the different groups that we reached out to and did these activities, as well as adjacent to schools. Some felt parks. So more in the neighborhoods is what we saw. Some, there's inconsistent on the downtowns. You see actually some red dots in the downtown. What we heard was downtowns being done by development, let them do it. Focus city dollars on the neighborhood street. So that's what we will work on. And then we categorized all of that information into 4 buckets. So likelihood of walking is, are there things to go to that are attracting or generating people walking? So the schools that I talked about, parks, trails, those type of land uses and activities is the likelihood of walking, and you'll see that was the highest percentage of prioritization for those. Some demographics, people who are transit dependent and need to be able to walk to get around was also an important factor for us. Roadway character, so I talked about, it still says Q alert there. I've been here for a long time, it'll be Q alert for a long time. So those requests that we get in from the community of the people who know how to ask, those were requests, we included those.
Yes.
Go ahead, no,
Sorry to keep interrupting.
that's right.
Does that include, and as you said, it was restricted to visual, to the, I hate to say disabled, but the
ADA?
ADA ramps that are some that were existing, some that weren't,
And we didn't really get into that either.
okay.
It's really just where there are quantifiable gaps missing, not if the corner connections are there.
I can leave, so I
No, you're welcome to ask any questions. Do you have a question? Or Gregory, go.
So one of the challenges with creating baseline databases is keeping them updated. Do you have a process that makes new build permitting, and they're all required to have sidewalks to back to your database?
Our hope is when I get to the point where I'll show you, we have an online portal with all the sidewalks, and our hope is to keep that active and moving, and it'll be a live layer. As things are developed, we keep updating that as we go. As well as my dream is to have it so that when the city's doing projects under my department, like we can use that as a quantifiable measure of saying, look what we've done in regards to the sidewalk master plan. Show it, so both areas.
So
But there's no system right now that's
there's
set
no
up for that.
linkage, so like if a new house is being built in a neighborhood, and that final build permit's been issued, are you guys notified? And
No.
at that point, we should update the database.
We are not at this point, but that is a good point to create some sort of communication that we are notified. We usually just hear when the neighborhoods, honestly, when the neighborhoods find out there's not a sidewalk, and we get involved to try to make sure that there is. James?
But wouldn't that be by the code inspector? Would that, they would
They'll issue a
know?
final permit, right? And then that will include make.
So it's like we have the data, they just need to
It's the
shoot it over to
communication
you.
number, yeah. Yeah, but that's a very good point, thank you.
Okay.
Kara, can you tell us a little bit about the roadway character and the high injury network? So is that the number of injuries for the people trying to cross the road?
So it's the number of pedestrian crashes that are on a corridor, so however, if it's crossing or walking along, we looked at the high injury network, which is, that has a higher level of crashes on those networks. Honestly, most of them are on large arterials, so they wouldn't be something that we would cover, because those are other people's streets like DOT or Broward County, but if there's any local smaller streets that have high crashes, in Northwest 15th Ave that we're about to do a project on, that was one historically that had an extremely high level of crashes.
Yeah.
Fatalities, young girl was hit crossing the street there, so and killed, and that's why that project's getting done now, because it was a high crash corridor.
Okay, so
we-
you also put like a more weight in the scoring for
Yes,
those.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yep, that as well as the other one on there is neighborhood collectors. So not to pick on Victoria Park, but it comes to mind too. Sixth Street, Sixth Street is a collector. There's a lot of cars on there. There's people walking. There's so much going on. That street needs a sidewalk because there's so much conflict happening. So we went through the different neighborhoods and identified Northeast 18th Street, different streets in different neighborhoods that we know are the collectors, to give a little bit extra weight to those too, because there's more going on. But the little local neighborhood, like dead ends or small streets, won't get the priority, because it's okay to walk, because it's slow speed, there's not a lot of cars. You don't need a sidewalk on every single street.
Okay.
And the other one's access to transit, so you'll see when we get to how those weighted, likelihood of going to somewhere and things in the area are the highest, the characteristics of the safety and things like that. And then transit, we have a lot of transit, but it was a priority that helped differentiate some of the similar type numbered projects. to balance them a little bit more. So all those went into our scoring. Question or no? I see it, I see it.
I like your
Yes.
your logic's good.
Do your department handle right path as well?
We do the Lauder Go, we don't do, I don't know, I'm not familiar with what that is.
You know, where you, on the streets where you see they got the green lines, where the,
The bike path, yeah, yes, some of them.
is that your department or that's somebody else?
It depends on what street. So if it's on a local street, like Old Dixie Highway, that would be us, but if it's on Broward or US 1, some of those big ones, that would be the
Neighborhood
state.
streets would be.
Yeah, it would be us, yeah.
In the areas where there is narrow streets you mentioned, 6th Street, and the need with sidewalks. We also need the bike path. And there's quite a few streets in the city that is not gonna allow for both. Where would the priority be?
So I can go back to Northwest 15th Ave. We're doing a 10-foot wide shared use path there. So we, instead of moving curbs and trying to put bike lanes right up against a lot of speeding cars and a lot of volume, we're creating shared use paths separate from the cars. So we had enough right of way there on the west side. It's gonna be a nice 10-foot wide shared use path, some additional landscaping there. So whenever we can, we separate away the bike path and combine them together, but do it extra wide, 10 foot.
You know, the infusion of the electric scooter things is dominating the streets now. And I just want to make sure that we are trying to protect everyone.
We are definitely, and it's been an evolution in our sector. I've been here 12 years, and just getting a bike lane was a big feat back in the day. And now it's progressed and we're able to get shared use bike facilities. Cypress Creek Road, they wanted to put bike lanes on the road and we were able to advocate. It's beautiful now from Power Line to 95, they added beautiful shared use path there. And people are using it, biking and walking to and from Tri-Rail and getting there. So we've come a long way in our region. We're still not perfect, but we're getting there. Yes, sir.
So when you run across some of the existing sidewalks, the widths are like maybe not 5 feet, but 4 feet or 3.5 feet. Is it the policy of the city to go ahead and transition into 5 feet and put that in as opposed to keeping with that same restricted width?
I think it'll depend, but where we have done it when we had corridor projects. The Riverland Road was an example where we did upgraded the sidewalk for the whole corridor, and where it was 3.5, we upgraded it to 5 or 6, depending. I think it was 6 out there. But so we will upgrade it for doing corridor wide. I don't know that we would do it as part of the sidewalk master plan. If it's just like one gap, would we do the whole rest of the corridor? I'm not sure about. We haven't talked about that yet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So the results, here is a screenshot of our portal and what it looks like and all the different rainbow of colors there. I blew up the center of the city where there's the most going on there in one place. You can see South Middle River is an example of one of the neighborhoods, 2 elementaries, a couple parks. So all those things we talked about as priorities, bring out a lot of red going on there because of the attractors and generators that were prioritized. And then you'll also see other neighborhoods have a lot of sidewalks already. Lauderdale Manors has a lot of sidewalks. Dorsey has a lot of sidewalks, but they have a lot of little baby gaps. So looking, we could get far with just filling all these little gaps and complete this neighborhood as well. So there's a variety of different approaches we're looking at on moving forward and being equitable across all the neighborhoods to make sure we're working towards that as well. This is how the block scores have shaken out in terms of the highest scores are on the right, which is our tier 1, and they move down all the way to tier 6, which will probably be never, honestly, in some of those streets that are really not a priority. But we're starting in these first 2 blue colors there, which is the majority, so it's of the top 2 priorities, about 88 miles, and it came out about balanced for every neighborhood. We were pleasantly surprised with that one. Honestly, for the D1 folks, there's not a lot of parks and schools going on in D1. So we weren't sure how that was gonna shake out, but it did come across all of the neighborhoods. So we're gonna focus on, as I mentioned, the first 2 tiers. The direction we received from commission when we were there in January was focus on one side of the street first.
Yeah.
So that at least we create a network to start with, and we can do as much across the city as possible, and then we can go back on the second sites in the future. Looking at constructability, can we even fit it there? This, as I said, is very high level, data driven from a computer, so it's not based necessarily in the real life street conditions or the community conditions. So our next steps are gonna be looking at feasibility and then going to the neighborhoods and saying, okay, this is your neighborhood's priorities, what do you think? Does this make sense with you? And if so, we'll move forward with the ones that they think. I have no intent of pushing sidewalks where people don't want them, so we're gonna work through that the next phase.
Karen, excuse me, so that's, that's gonna be a flashpoint, I think, that the neighborhood wants the sidewalk, but the homeowners doesn't want their landscaping torn up. So who's going to be mediating that discussion?
How we've worked before is with the support of the neighborhood association.
Okay.
And actually Tarpon River was an example of where it was ugly for a minute. We were there presenting on a potential grant project, which is in design right now, actually, 5 years later. And there was a development project at the same time. So a lot of people were in that meeting who hadn't been involved in the whole neighborhood master plan process.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't want it in front of our house. And it was also part of in the time when the homeowner was liable and responsible for those sidewalks still,
Oh, yeah.
that has changed a little
But
bit.
that's changed.
But the leadership of the association stood up and said, no, this is for the good of the neighborhood, this is what we need, this is why, and it did move forward, and it's being, it'll be built within a year or so, once the design is done. So we would look to them, and if there's not enough will in the community, we would not move forward. But we have moved forward if 1 or 2 people have not been in favor.
Question?
Yes.
Before you move on, sorry. The last 2 slides or slide before, you said most likely never in the gray. Is this in the order in which now in the gray for District 4, is that never or on the second phase? See how it's gray,
Oh,
does
no,
that mean
sorry,
like
different
never?
gray, sorry, different gray.
Okay.
He used consistent, my consultant helped with this, that he used consistent blue theme throughout it, but this is a different color tone, this is just the district, so. In this chart, the gray, so the
Okay.
last, and I think it was before this.
Just wanted to make sure.
So just this one, the tier 6, this would be, millions and millions of dollars to get all the way to tier 6,
Okay, thank
just that gray.
So this is like the dark blue and the next dark blue, that's the 88 miles
Yes.
we're
Yep.
talking about, okay.
Yeah, so we're just gonna focus on these two the
Right,
next couple of
and then,
years.
so then,
Which district?
so then you go to the next slide and then you see.
Yeah, and then we're drilling down a little bit more,
Yeah.
so just that 88 miles is there. And then the next, of those 88 miles, 38 miles of initial projects, so that's looking at just the
Wow.
one side of the street first. Feasibility and connecting those gaps and
Amazing how close the districts came out. Wow.
Yes. I agree.
pretty incredible.
Wow.
That's good.
Yes, I think the concern from Lindsay is because she's the district one, right?
Mhm.
Just like me, so.
It seems like we're always last for everything.
We don't wanna have a that's good that we even.
So next steps is the deliverable. So I'm in a review of that deliverable right now, so we're close to getting our final document. And then working with the neighborhoods and identifying what neighborhoods are supportive of is next. Funding, of course, and doing the outreach, and then we'll be continually revisiting those priorities as we accomplish more goals. We have a variety of different funding sources already. It's personally super exciting for me because I've been here 12 years and had 0 funding for sidewalks for all those years. So to have all this money coming now and like, okay, let's get going. We have some surtax funding, some CIP funding. So we're already starting, we just signed a contract with a consultant to start some preliminary design of some projects that we had queued up based on what community had asked for. And then we'll always continue to look for additional funding sources, yes, Jean.
Karen, I remember you told one meeting that I went to, the cost of a mile of sidewalk, and it was astounding. Just bring us up to date on that.
It is a lot, and I just wrote it and I forget.
It's like,
I don't know, Brad, if, I'm sure you can, off the top of your head, like, cost of a mile of sidewalk. I know a linear foot was like $93 a linear foot, I think, when you, so then you add 5,000 or something, whatever that, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know what that math is, but if you do that,
It
it
was
was a lot.
a lot of money.
Yes.
It's shocking how much it
Concrete is
costs.
extremely expensive. So additional funding, so for surtax,
Peters has his hand up.
oh, sorry, Peter, go ahead.
Yes, it's on this same point, Karen. So do you do the CIP applications every year for the sidewalk funding?
We have not, the city commission put funding for the next 5 years already in that as their initiative. We have not requested each year, but it was a city commission initiative driven.
So that's a bit different to years ago. The way I was understood it in the past was that different departments sort of applied for funding for different things. We have said, just FYI, in the past, that the city should try and allocate a bigger percentage of the general fund for capital projects such as sidewalks. So, we've been trying to help you in that regard. And my second question is, the surtax funding, I think that is also that is an application process.
Yeah.
Is that your understanding, Karen?
Yes, yeah, in CIPs, there is an application process sometimes, but others, the commission can create their own will as well. Then surtax funding, yes, it has been an application process. They just changed the rules, so the sidewalk funding, the 3 million we're getting for that is secured, we're working through the funding agreements and the processes through the county, so that should start design within the next several months, so that is moving forward. And then, but move past that and the projects we have in the queue that was similar to a CIP applying, it's gonna be focused on maintenance, repair and maintenance now with the surtax funding. Not as much capital mobility projects anymore, it was just changed recently, so what we
But the
have.
surtax, that 3 million is largely from surtax funding, is that correct?
Yeah, that 3 million is all surtax funding, it was an application we put together 5 years ago, for that funding process.
Well, good. Congratulations on getting that, and
Thank you.
I encourage staff to basically, if it's still an application process, apply every year. I mean, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah, and other funding sources, Peter, like the old school TAP projects through the MPO, we still apply for those every year. Coming up, we were just ranked as the top project for South Middle River, actually. So we'll be able to get some of their sidewalk pieces done through that as well. So we look at either sidewalk specific or neighborhood with a variety of different things. Northeast 26th Street and Coral Ridge is a project that's in surtax that will be coming up that will include a sidewalk as well. So it may be a piece of it or the whole project. So we look at a variety of different places.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Was there another question?
No, that definitely would help with the cost. Looks like we have a cost on the other side.
Yeah, and then I'll switch over into Lauderdale. I know Peter had some questions about Lauderdale. I saw that is under our division. Our acting deputy director, Kristen Thompson, is the project manager for this. But she gave me some information to be able to share today. It has been, we've been working on this for a while now, probably about 7 years. And the commission appointed an advisory board early on to develop what Lauderdale will be with just the vision of creating a trail system in the city. And I think at the time it was envisioned even just 7 miles of trail system. It has evolved to over 40 miles. And focusing on connecting parks and then connecting to existing like the Flagler Greenway and things like that. So we did hire a consulting company, it's a nonprofit consulting company that has done the Atlanta Beltway, the Greenway around Atlanta as well, and done different trails. The Jacksonville one that the Commissioner Moritas at the time had referenced, so they did that one as well. So they were a great help with us creating that master plan. The commission approved it in 2022. We're moving design plans forward. There was Parks Bond money allocated for that. So the first 5 segments are approaching 100% design and moving forward on that. And those are probably easy. This on the right is the entire system showing different elements, some that have been done, like Bayview Drive, we would consider that's a bike trail already done. Northwest 15th Ave I talked about, that's going into construction, so there's some elements we're moving forward already. But segment 1 and 2 is shown on this map, so really connecting like the Greenway on the Flagler Greenway to Holiday Park to George English is a big connection, and eventually out to A1A. And then connecting the downtown mobility hub, which is near the Greenway as well, up to Carter Park, which is gonna connect to what we're doing up to Mills Pond Park as well with the Northwest 15th Ave. So creating those spines is the first segments. So part of it, and I'll get into different elements are gonna look different and be done differently, like some by developers, some by the city, and identifying different ways to get the things accomplished. So we have, we're finalizing the design for the Flagler Greenway to Holiday Park and the mobility hub to Carter Park. Then on the Holiday Park to George English, that eastern portion, we've received a grant for moving that one forward, and it's starting design through their environmental process, environmental permitting and things. And then we have applied for additional funding for segments 2, which are connecting Carter Park to downtown. And we're waiting on the results of that one. Yes, sir.
The 15th Avenue to Carter Park, that's going to end not at Carter Park, but at Sunrise.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct. Yeah, and then the north end, we're able to get it, it's actually gonna go into Mills Pond Park.
Okay.
And will connect to the existing trail system inside Mills Pond Park. So make that little connection there.
I was trying to get across Sunrise on
That's
it would be
a whole nother initiative, like working with DOT to try to make that area safer, yes.
So Karen, I'm sorry,
Yes, ma'am.
could you go back a couple slides when for the first slide for the updates? I am gonna pause here. So on the green area, we're seeing the cost, so it looks like 1.2 mile. The estimated construction cost, I believe this is the 5.7 million.
Yes,
So we can see that probably mile cost us about 5 million. And that's in a estimated in 2023 2 years ago.
yeah, that was done a while ago, yes. Yeah.
So I hope
Trails are
we keep the
expensive.
price.
Probably not,
And
everything
I
goes up
hope
very
if
quickly.
we had planned 42 miles, this is just for Lauderdale train, right?
Yes,
So in addition to this, there is another 40 miles across those neighborhoods, the 38 miles, right? The tier
Oh,
1 and 2.
those are just pure sidewalks, so there might be some overlap
Oh,
on
okay,
those. Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
you're right, okay, perfect, because this is mixed use, right? This is the
Yes,
bike,
yeah.
sidewalk, okay.
So then again, just zooming in a little bit more of 1B is from the existing Flagler Greenway into Holiday Park. And then you get into Holiday Park and then come out the backside and go to Mills Pond is there. So that's that phase 1. And you'll see the difference. So this is the graphic showing going into Holiday Park, coming from US 1, big wide shared use path between the beautiful trees that are there today, existing trees. And then this is the development at Searstown, so they are developing the extra wide path as part of their development and redevelopment plan there. Doing some improvements at the intersection to get you across US 1 safely. And then, but there are some neighborhood streets, this like through Victoria Park, on one of the slower streets. So you don't necessarily need that infrastructure as much, but doing more of a shared street type of design through that section.
Karen, along the railroad tracks there, I know that piece from like Sunrise down to Andrews and Third or wherever that takes us. That's very nice. I drive by there a lot. How do you work with the train people? I mean, how is?
It's extremely challenging.
Yeah.
And right now with the commuter rail stuff going on, that's our original, when we started, this was gonna be the first segment. But the FEC is challenging because they have a lot going on, so they wanna protect what they have right now, it's their property. Till we figure out what's going on with commuter rail and freight needs, so we're not moving any of those forward right now. So that's that.
So Karen, is that project, the ladder here, would the construction cost 5 million, let's say, for a 1 mile? Is that already financed? Does the city has a money for it?
We have some funding through the Parks Bond, and then we're applying for those other grants to help finance the rest of the construction.
Looks like at minimum we need 200 million.
It'll be a slow process.
Your scope for the sidewalks doesn't include reshaping swales and doing that. I mean, you just put the sidewalk in and people responsible for the swales, make sure that they are inverted.
When we've done corridor projects, we haven't done small sidewalk projects yet, but when we've done corridor projects, we do reshape the swale and we work with Public Works to get like when we did Bayview, we got the typical section. So that when they put the new sidewalk in, they regraded the swale.
Outstanding,
Because that's a huge issue for Bayview, because the swales are higher than the driveways.
Question, are you tied with some water mitigation project where they're trying to improve drainage in mountain streets? Beach?
And then this is the segment 2, which is Carter Park to downtown. And the part that we're focusing on is this kind of east leg, connecting to Walker Elementary and then back out to the downtown. There's some other really fun, cool bridge crossing. The Parks Department is working on some stuff near Salvation Army, connecting up through this way, which will be a future larger scale project. But again, so using potentially some creative alley usage, connecting folks and widening sidewalks, a lot more of just widening sidewalks through the neighborhoods, and making safer crossings is what that focus is. And this is me, that's it.
Really good.
Any additional,
Very good.
anything else for me?
No more questions?
Just a comment, like, we see so many projects that are, turning up the streets, just are just so much work's going on. So that the water mitigation project, having your project managers talk to the project managers that will be working in Victoria Park. So if you're working in Victoria Park, have those two project managers talk. Maybe there's some efficiencies that, less.
You have a great ear to listen there. We do our best, and I know there's some work on restructuring CIP project managers to be together to hopefully create better lines of communication there. We do our best to try to communicate, but there's a lot going on, as you said,
Well,
in
there's a
different
lot going
folks.
on. I mean, you've got sewer, water runoff, and now sidewalks, and you still are paving roads all the time. I don't know how you keep them coordinated, but I definitely see that opportunity.
And then there's the challenge, each one has its own funding source and its own restrictions, and how do you wait, hold on a minute, let's find some money from somewhere else to be able to piggyback on that. It's pretty complicated, but we try to do that as best as possible. If there's any opportunity, we're looking at a resurfacing project. Can we change the bike lane, 15th Ave, so can we accomplish the goal of the long-term plan for 15th Ave through the resurfacing now, and what would that take to do that, so trying to figure that out.
Only, as an old project manager, the only thing I could think of would be an overlay project manager for a region, Victoria Park overlay project manager that's responsible for understanding all the projects that are happening in Victoria Park and communicating, areas up here, hey, you're working here on the same street, you're working on the same street, just something like simple like that.
Yeah, at one point we had district-based planners, and it really works, because then they are based in just their district, they know what's going on in their district, they're familiar, and they can communicate, so that might be something interesting
That could
for
also
Public
be,
Works too.
that could be the public works communication to the neighborhood associations to form that stronger bond.
Yeah, you create little relationships with your
Who would
different
be a good
neighborhood
role
residents and
project manager, so they'd be responsible for all these projects and us in that area.
I know when I was charge of the neighborhood improvement projects for Broward County for umpteen years. Biggest problems we're having, make sure we coordinate with everybody else, not only inside the Broward County under their umbrella, but and of course FPNL and the rest of them, but other cities such as like City Fort Lauderdale, and make sure we get everybody in there before we pave the road, because that's the biggest embarrassment that you can run into. So we set up meetings with everybody that had any potential of having something in their utility or whatever, FPNL, AT&T and whatever, and just to make sure that they were given a chance, and just to make sure we don't have anybody coming back up and tearing up our roadway that we felt so proud of after we got all that stuff in.
One more question, about the data, your baseline data on all the sidewalks. So they have baseline data, there's a mass, I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the master, the master database, is it?
They complete the master, right?
We're
That's
doing
the
the
result of
master
the
plan.
master. Are you still doing
Yeah, we're finalizing like the document, but the online
analysis?
GIS layer is done.
There's a master, there's a database that's has all the water and sewer pipes. And is this data being fed into that database, so you have a database that you can layer?
It has not yet, but it could, it's a GIS layer, so it can be added to any other GIS layers that we
As
have.
long as you link them, you can come up with a whole city, street view of everything. I mean, going back to the need of knowing everything that's happening on the same street, every bit of data feeds the same place. Not easy, not easy.
No.
Upkeep.
But I think Ralph brought us to that there is a lot of utilities on the sidewalk. I know it looks pretty, but underground, there is a
Yeah.
AT&T, there's a Comcast, there's FPNL, and there's a trees above that they probably gambo limbo. There's a FPNL power poles, so you don't want to have a sidewalk with a pole in the middle, so the coordination is critical. So I like the idea that there was a district planner for the district, passed, so I knew it was going on, because there is really no reason for water and sewer to, replace the infrastructure because the sidewalk is coming up, right? Unless there is a capacity issue that we're upsizing the pipe, absolutely, we're already gonna be tearing up the road, we're already tearing up the sidewalks, that's time, to save money on the restoration and put the sidewalk in place, So I think that coordination is important, if the city plans to, because development's happening and we're going from 36 inch to 42 all of a sudden, right? Because if there is a capacity needs in a pipe, in a force main or the drinking water, right? So that's coordination. But I do like that idea that there was somebody responsible for all those, the master plans. Sidewalks, they look pretty, but it's a lot of work behind the scenes to make sure this is nice and it's smooth and connected.
I can remember City of Sunrise, they put in nice sidewalks on Sunset Boulevard, I remember that. And then FPNL came along, put poles in after they had their sidewalk, and put poles in, undermined it, and the sidewalks were cracking and failing,
In
so
the middle, yeah.
this was.
They are a challenge, they continue to be.
It's I used to have a lot more hair before I started.
And then when they finish and then their contractor just leaves and there's stuff all over the place or missing.
Oh,
There was, in Silver
Nobody's
Bend, there was a missing
responsible.
piece of sidewalk like this big and nobody would take responsibility for it. It was the other utility,
Exactly.
Will there be coordination with all that being said before this is implemented, or will it just be,
Yes, we will do our best to
Okay,
coordinate all of that before, yeah.
I do see a lot of roads that are finally being paved and then they mark them up with spray paint and I'm like, what is happening now?
you're doing
Why are
well.
you ripping out the road again?
They
And then
might
it's like,
clean it
it's not in connection, so a lot of work and planning.
Yeah.
So,
But definitely, if you're gonna try to maintain your database, try to get a link to the new building permit, so
That's a great idea.
you'll see holes that hopefully somebody's filmed,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely, get credit for the other stuff.
Okay, Karen, stay with us. Peter, I see
Oh,
you have a question, Peter?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
So we have an emerging situation with the electric bikes, and they are way faster than the pedal bikes, or most of them are. I don't know, Karen, if anything has changed in the legalities, but I think it always used to be the case that it was not illegal anyway to ride a bike on the sidewalk, except I think in
Correct.
part of the golf area. But now, you wouldn't want these electric bikes on the sidewalk because they're so fast. So, do you know what the legalities of the electric bikes are, and are they going to also be allowed in bike lanes, etc.?
I'm not aware of any changes to state legislation on what electric bikes are versus pedal powered bikes. So they're still, if you ride on a sidewalk, you should act as a pedestrian, so you're supposed to stop at crossings and all of that. If you ride the street, you should follow the traffic laws, so I'm not aware of any changes to that yet, but I agree, same issues we had when we had scooters. They're too fast to be on the sidewalk, maybe too slow to be in traffic, or not safe in the traffic, so they're kinda in a middle spot there.
Yeah, it's. I can see this is going to become a bigger problem.
As there's more and more and more.
We're gonna be flying drones. No new drones. All right, no more questions from the group? Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, so if that was also update on the bike path, Karen?
Yes.
Okay, so there was 2-in-1 combo. Thank you, Karen. Okay, next item is a public works updates, and we have CAP financial report. Is anybody from the staff?
That's on every, it's in the packet, CIP, which has your contract last meeting,
Okay,
financials as well as the,
and that's together with the water and sewer breaks, right?
yes, all of it.
Find it. I do see the map for the water and sewer breaks.
You'll have both for June and for July for the water and sewer that is competing for
So I see the one from June 1st to June 30. I see 3 water breaks. You really don't want us to see this, right? And the magnified glass. And I see 1 for a sewer. I can't really read it, I'm not sure if anybody but 3 water breaks, 14, 12 and 6 inch. Not sure what was the cause. Emergency repair, they all 3 under emergency repair. I'm not sure what was the cause. I see Brad left, but normally you would ask the question, what was the cause for a break? I don't think we could ask anybody here.
What's the question, Lana?
Thanks, Larry. Normally we ask a question, what was the cause of the break? There was 3 emergency repairs. If there was a contractor drilling through the pipe, or there was aging infrastructure,
That for water or wastewater?
water. We have 3 for water, and I see 1 for wastewater, there was gravity blockage. And I see 1 attached the SSO report, which is nice, thank you. Blockage was cleared, standing water was removed by the fracture. So description of the district occurred because of the gravity blockage. So I'm assuming there was FATS.
Most likely, the SSO is likely responsive to environmental team updates,
Okay,
business questions.
And there was somebody from the restaurant was discharging oil. Probably downstream, we got a blockage. So, looks like there was 9,000 gallons recovered, almost half of this, okay. And I see the bacteriological report, so looks like they went to the intercoastal, that's why they did the bacteriological report for the SSO.
The Vistamar North Virgin. Vistamar North
Yes.
Virgin.
Oh, I see, public medical, okay, pictures attached, thank you.
Yeah, these are Connie wants pictures now.
So this one is for June, and I see another one for June, for SSO. On the Southeast End Avenue. So it looks like there was two, okay. They both blockage, grease and rocks, okay.
The one tenth was a manhole overflowing.
So Larry, the city has a program for the grease traps and the ordinance for the maintenance.
Yes, we have an ordinance. So usually when we have a gravity blockage due to petrol and greases, we'll do that outreach to the restaurants.
Okay,
Surrounding community, educate them, we'll check their grease traps, check last time they're pumped out. We are trying to this next fiscal year try to increase our level of service for grease trap maintenance, get eyes on them more often than we have in the past.
so you actually have, the city has an inspector, so they can.
We have environmental inspectors
Oh, nice.
that they do in addition to other duties, but
Okay,
we have we keep track of grease trap inspections and their efforts.
and you were sending like a letter to the owner?
In person, we send in person. So
Okay.
we'll talk to the restaurant folks, we'll ask them for their pump out receipts.
Yes, okay, excellent. Yeah, the DEP works on a draft rule,
Yeah, that's for the haulers to submit,
correct, to submit directly to the
to
city.
submit their activities, report to the state.
Yes, so I
Not
think
for there's no where they, for us to submit to them, but the haulers have to.
the haulers, correct, but they would be, I think that would help a lot for the, because they would have
Accountability
to
on the
be
hauler.
mandated to have a contract with the hauler, and I think there's a money on this, so the actual hauler's gonna be reaching out to them and doing that outreach for us.
Exactly,
Because
so they'll be helping us.
Correct, they're gonna have
In
to pay
theory.
for that contract, so I think that's but it's been a draft since March this
And
year.
it's been a while.
And there's no activity, so I'm watching that rule. There's a code ordinance from the state of Florida. The governor signed it in 2022, mandating a DEP to regulate grease traps. So right now, because those blockages, fats are crystallizing underground and they down the street, they're causing a blockage, the sewer cannot go through. So in addition to the local ordinance that the city has it, there would be some additional enforcement from the actual haulers that they have a business through the cleaning the grease traps. So I think that would help a lot for
Yeah, the
us.
rulemaking has been, 2024, early 2025 rulemaking's been.
The rulemaking been drafted, yes, for a year, and DPs, there was already public workshops, the comments closed, it's available online, but it's not finalized, so I think when the rule will be finalized, then what that means, the haulers would reach out to those restaurants and they would be mandated to be on a program for cleaning those grease traps, which would help utilities. So, no SSO.
We also do a fat toilet grease campaign, usually around the holidays, we call it candy grease, around Thanksgiving,
Oh.
Christmas, and,
Nice,
Because
education,
the restaurant, a lot of really grease does come from residential
correct,
properties, which are regulated.
unfortunately, that's the truth.
This is,
We're not supposed to put any grease to the sink, just in case you guys thinking about it, stop. Alright, any questions to the water breaks and sewer blockages? We got for June and July. Okay, and thank you, Larry. The next item will be the CRT financial report that is attached, I believe. Okay, I guess we have to find a understanding ourselves in this. Any questions to the CRT financial report? Other than I can't really see. They don't want us to see those numbers. Really very fine print.
Yeah, it's nothing.
Just another question, any surprise budgeting requests come up recently? Things that you did pursue, that's taking expensive money?
Not to my knowledge. As you know, we're in the transition, new director, sort of some vacancies with Omar resigning as well, so the whole department is in of itself a little bit of transition.
Hopefully things will settle down soon.
Yes, well, we are 2 months, this is as a, yeah, we are 2 months away from the closing this fiscal year. And most of the items looks like they're 50% spent to date. But I'm assuming the work is ongoing, it's just didn't complete it, so. You know, looks like the master plan is since 2017. 97 completion, so 7 years later, we may have a master plan. For water and sewer, looks like that's the item that it's about to be completed. Everything else is 100% completion. Effluent redundancy, I think that's the pump standby generator. 100% design. Effluent pump standby generator for admin buildings. Okay, well, we don't have a staff to explain the CAP financial,
Right.
but
Are there any questions that you have that we can jot down and go back and bring answers to you for the next meeting?
yes, my question would be about those projects that they, you know, you have in the first table, because that's the one I can read it. That you have the 50% completion in some projects, other than the master plan report. That looks like it's moving, you know, smoothly. But everything else is about, you know, the INI 45%, we have force main 50%, water main 50% completed. Does that mean that another 50% is the work ongoing right now and it's expected to be completed by October 1st? Or is just, you know, that would be
You wanna
the
know what that 50% or what are you
the remaining 50%? Does that mean that they're gonna be, the contractor is currently working, because there was committed 21 million for water main, and looks like remaining balance, we have a 19 million. So maybe the contractor didn't get paid yet, but is still working, so I'm not sure, because looks like there is a lot of funds were committed, but not necessarily spent. So is that the hold of the permitting, or there was no RFQ, the contractor was not selected, but
Which one are you focusing on right now?
you have like 50% in the first table,
Yeah, I know, I'm looking, which item?
the water main, for instance.
Water main, okay. 51%. Was budgeted at 21 million, there's still 19 million left, it's over 50%. That looks like things that they've done have not been very expensive, they still got a lot of money left.
Yeah, you can't tell.
Yeah, I would say that,
But I would ask if, if we allocating 21 million, why the work is not done?
why what?
Why the work was not done?
Well, only thing I would ask for, but I don't wanna ask for it, would be color coding. Red, yellow, green, on time, on budget, off budget, red.
Below the,
I don't wanna,
Right, that's what I'm thinking, the first 51% maybe is.
yeah. The project manager.
The project is completed, but they just haven't spent the big ticket items yet, they haven't paid for them yet, so.
but that's what I asked, like, is that the, did
You
we finish the
can't
work that we needed to do
But we
this
don't
year?
know from this, we'd have to get.
Something's a little.
I think we're saying the same,
Well, we're saying the same thing,
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like I can't tell time,
Right.
scheduling, or budget.
right, so it might be nice, like you said, a color code, red, yellow, green, on budget or whatever.
So
On
you'd have,
tax.
and then you'd have 2 columns for time, you'd have target.
Yeah.
And expected.
Yeah.
You refer, and then you color code that red, yellow, green.
We can talk about that when
Yeah.
we've got somebody here.
Okay,
Alright,
Can we talk about what we wanna do next time?
yes, the general discussion and comments. Next item.
I have a general discussion item, I don't know how to type it.
Okay, you don't agree?
It's just an observation, and I'm in Victoria Park, there's been a lot of new construction. They're tearing down houses built in the 40s and 50s and putting up a new home. These houses that were built in the 40s and 50s had wells. The new homes, I'm not saying any of them with wells. And so that's gonna put more they're gonna require more water, city process water for just sprinkle their yards. And they're going to have a lot of cost for that water. How can we incent the builders to put in wells? I don't think we can, but it would be beneficial for us, because it wouldn't we wouldn't have that demand on the water processing plant.
I guess the question is why did they abandon it as opposed to trying to salvage it for the new homeowners or something like that?
The house built right next to me, it was just not located, the well was not located in the right place for the water.
Okay,
But I did ask the builder, and he told me the city won't allow you to tap wells anymore. Which I don't know if that's true or not, I don't think it is.
What do you mean
Some
by
of it-
track wells?
I've had
To drill a well for their sprinkler system.
Yes, that's true, but that's not the city, the city doesn't regulate. That's the South Florida Water Management District, so Larry is here, he's from the department.
because I've had two.
But when a city has a water and sewer line across your neighborhood, there's an availability ladder you must connect. So back in the days, there was no septic, there were septic system, there was no sewer, there was no drinking water line, the people had the wells, but it must be very old house when there was no infrastructure yet on that street. So right now, the DEP is not gonna let you to put the septic, because you have a sanitary sewer on your street, that's number one, and the same is with the drinking water wells.
I've got two
So-
neighbors that put in wells in the last 5 years
for irrigation.
for irrigation, exclusively irrigation.
For your.
Not
And
sewer.
the only,
But they go to the district, that's not a city pack.
well, I'm just telling you, but I
That's
pulled
the
a permit
South
back
Florida
in the
Management
early
District.
80s to put in my little well that only went down like 20 feet or something like that. And they have to have some kind of guidance, is keeping the wells far enough away from the house. You don't wanna have a collapse.
Same call, yeah.
And so there are certain rules of the game has been there forever. I mean, I made sure I at least got it 5 feet away. No, and you have to be away from any utility, like if you have a water main, city water, and the sewer lateral going out, you can't be close to those.
How could we, again, going back to, this is just water to sprinkle your yard, right? How can we get the message out there to people who own homes that don't have one of these? Hey, you know, you're worried about the cost of your water bill going up, right? And we don't want you sprinkling, having to, you know, watering with, you know, city water, right? You've got an alternative, right? You don't have to go pay for it yourself,
And
right?
some people run into the iron that's down in pockets in the groundwater, and they, you know, your sidewalk turns
Stain.
orange or
Right.
yellow or something like
That's
that.
just part of it, right? But I don't know, it's just, I don't know how to incorporate that, get the message out there.
Find out exactly what is required. I think that's the first order of business.
We see you, Peter.
First of all, code would, I mean, if they go through some building code process and they have to have everything approved, I'm sure that's part of the discussion. But what's the new house costing, 2 million? 2.5 million?
3.5.
3.5 million? They don't care about the water bill.
Oh, no, they do.
Well, they say they do, but they really don't. They
Peter?
really-
So it used to be the case, and maybe still is, that you can apply and get a different water meter for the city water to sprinkle with.
Irrigation meter, they have that.
That's what I.
But that's charged at a lower rate, which always didn't make a lot of sense to me, because you're encouraging the use of treated water. And, you know, it's an increasingly expensive thing, even if you, it's the same water whether you're putting it on the grass or whether you're drinking it, etc. So that would be one thing, to not have that preferential rate, the city water being used for irrigation.
Peter, it's not lower, it's not charged for the sewer,
Sewer.
but it's the same rates. Right, Larry?
No, it's higher. We have a water conservation rate structure, so actually if you irrigate through your dedicated irrigation meter, you're paying higher than you typical for your meter for your house. And that's an effort to help homeowners conserve water, because it does cost more to the rest to irrigate through your
Wow.
dedicated residential irrigation meter.
That's good.
In addition to the 2 days a week of watering, that all that conservation rates correction, 2 days of watering, that went Southward district-wide, county-wide. How long ago water that was? Years ago.
20 years ago.
Yeah, 10, 15, 20
There
years.
is a county ordinance for the irrigation and with the district. So all the permits for the irrigation wells, that needs to go for the South Florida or the Management District. And I can tell you, utilities want you to use your water for irrigation, because that's the money for the city. And that's not a really big water usage, you know, that the developers, the condominiums, but single family home, that's for utilities, that's probably, you know, some income, but I cannot speak for the district. They also have to
It's
keep it-
permit, you have to get like we do as utility, you get a water use permit to be able to draw that water. You would have to get a permit from the district to allow probably daily max, monthly max withdrawal.
Yeah.
So
Well, they have,
you have
the
to
South Florida management has it, that you're restricted to, for example. You can't water between, say, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m.
That's the ordinance we talk about,
Yeah.
that's together with the county.
Okay.
Certain days, it used to be certain days of the week and all that stuff.
Right, they still have that. They have like either
Still
1 or
have.
2 days, like a Wednesday and a Saturday for odd number homes, and then something for the even number. you know.
I'm not sure people pay attention to that anymore, but
I don't know about it.
There's no enforcement.
I pay attention with one eye.
Okay. And it was just, it was an idea.
I get rain, I don't water.
Well, the city not gonna be regulating this, because again, this is not, we cannot give those permits away, we cannot encourage. This is really the district, they control the aquifer, so that's, if they wanna give it to individual homeowners permits, or they wanna give the permit for the golf courses, which is golf courses are typical. They get the irrigation permits for the golf courses, but individual homes, I think, older homes, they inherit that, and they had it, but probably with the new developers, wanna give it to individual homeowners permits, or they wanna give the permit for the golf courses. Nancy? We can hear you.
Barely.
Yeah, it's
It's
echoing.
not clear then.
Nancy, do you wanna speak on this?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention a few things. I mean, a significant portion of the city of Fort Lauderdale's groundwater is saltwater intruted. And if the chlorides are too high to be able to use that water for irrigation, which is one of the reasons why most homes, specifically east of US 1, are not on wells because the water supply is not appropriate to use on landscaping. It has salt levels are too high. So as much as we might want people to spend more time on well water, most of our groundwater in the city is not appropriate because of the saltwater intrusion into the shallow aquifer, again, specifically east of US 1. And then, I believe Mr. LeBray had mentioned there's no enforcement for irrigation. Well, you may be aware that the city is moving to automated meter reading, and it is gonna be one of the ways that we can start looking at your use of your irrigation line more than the appropriate number of times per week, and we may be able to work with the residents to be able to educate them on what the requirements are, and eventually get better compliance there over time as we can better monitor it through the automated meters.
Well, thanks, Nancy. I didn't realize there's a lot of areas that had saltwater intrusion. That sort of shuts down the whole idea.
Probably further than US 1, probably further west than US 1. It's saltwater intrusion is close to 95, I believe.
You know, I would agree with that, but in the shallowest part of the aquifer, which is where most of the wells are, it's absolutely east of US 1, but you're correct, the saltwater intrusion line gets closer to 95.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. For the next meeting, maybe at the meeting after that, I would like to be able to, we don't need a presentation, but I certainly want the documentation and someone to give an update on what's going on with the police station. I want an update on what's going on with the new city hall. I want an update on the costs that are associated now with the drinking water. That's the full system, whether we're doing power line or anywhere else. And
Drinking water, you mean like the plant, the new,
yeah, the whole drinking water system, because it's not just the plant. The plant is just one aspect of the problem, drinking water. And the other thing is what portion, and this was for Brad, was how will the infusion of AI affect how they perform? And with the uncertainty of AI, how are we going to monitor to whether it's working correctly or incorrectly, whether it's making it on water or what's going on? There's so many problems with the whole AI system.
What, if I may get back at what you said about the police station and everything, I had asked if I could close mouth, do a walk in and around the police station to kind of see what I can see, and I was told no.
Why? No, actually, not why. Ooh, yeah.
That was the vice mayor, John Herbst. I asked him, and he said no. I said, well, the photographs back in the Sun Sentinel, to me, that was characteristic of the concrete losing the compression. I've seen that enough times. But I want to check out other things. You know, I just looked at, just like I did with the old police station. I walked through there, I walked on the site and everything, and I'm not going to submit anything to the Sun Sentinel. I would report back to the commission or to whoever. But I think I would like to do that, and just to make sure. I mean, it's scary that they finally got another consultant after we had that presentation in here, and they said, no, that's nothing to do with that. And I bit my tongue until at the end of the presentation, I said, that is definitely a problem. And then we later found out that they changed the design to have an overhang over there, which created a moment on there, and it caused the steel, reinforced steel, move and from concrete, and so it lost its strength on there. I mean, it was a flat roof until they got over the overhang area on that. Don't know what they did to try to correct it, but I was really ticked off, I'll be honest with you. And I was thinking, why bother being on the Infrastructure Task Force Committee if they're not going to listen to me? And I was in charge of the Broward County at the after I got through the neighborhood improvement things with Public Works. I accepted a job with Broward County at the Aviation Department at the Fort Lauderdale Hollywood International Airport to build the consolidated rental car facility. And I was running around up there looking at it. So it's only a 9-story, but I found problems in there, both structural and water. They were going to use groundwater for their fire suppression system. I said, no. You got iron, you got others. Look at that. You know, what consultant said this? I won't say, but
I agree with his ideas for there's too many for one meeting.
So can I ask staff who is overseeing the police department?
It's the project manager by the
By the city
in
manager?
the city manager's office.
Okay.
I don't have a name of the next person.
Okay. Can we ask for the next meeting to be to provide some update on the construction project?
Yes.
Including costs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's where I am, since they told us a year ago that there would be no additional cost to the city. But every time I look at the paper, there is an additional cost that the city is paying for now to be reimbursed by some insurance company, which I don't trust. I want to know if you're spending my money, I want to know for it.
Well,
and also if there's a
Option for the task force members to visit the site.
because there may not only be more money being spent, there may be some giving in on the structural stability of that building as well.
Which was omitted during the design and
Right.
cut the cost during the
And
construction.
it was done without going through the proper channels, is basically what it was.
And that's my concern.
You know, I'll be quiet.
And I want the same thing looked at when it comes to City Hall. where are we in the process, that was being, vetted? Is it being vetted already? I wanna know.
See how we get
And
on.
number one, where?
So,
Well,
hold
the
on.
where is decided,
So ladies,
right over there, where it used to
Same
be.
place.
so is the city hall progress design, I wanna say, is that also by the city manager office? Okay, thank you. So there will be second request regards the updates for the city hall. Provide updates, where we at, the design process, if there was selected consultant or not, what's the budget, what's the cost of the
I
design.
think the last thing they did was to hire a
Yes.
representative for the city.
criteria package.
Right.
There was the owner to provide the criteria
Right.
package. I'm not sure what the cost amount and where we at. Is the
And I
criteria
think-
package 30% complete or 90?
Owner's representative.
Correct.
Yeah.
But that's the same office, the city manager, so.
That'd be a separate meeting, so police station one meeting.
No, it could be at the same meeting,
Probably do
it's
those
just two different requests,
If
one,
those
Do you
two
want
is,
a written update or do you want present?
somebody present, looks like there's a lot of questions.
that can answer the questions. I
It's
don't,
two meetings.
we don't need a presentation, we need somebody who can provide answers.
Amazing, yes.
Status
Also
update.
too, I want to make note, I know that you requested a site visit. If that is something that is approved, all the members will not be able to go at the same time. It would have to be individually because of the sunshine.
Correct.
That's what I was asking when I asked,
No,
I just
just one
wanted, I was just,
individual.
I wanted just to go in there, so there wouldn't be any collusion amongst the members.
We were voluntarily select one member
Who would that be?
at that time.
When the time comes, we have a vote on whether or not it is useful.
Okay, I'm still here.
Okay, thank you, ladies.
But
So-
to make sure they're prepared, whoever does come, we're looking for job change orders, significant job change orders. And who's bearing the cost of those change orders, especially for the police station?
And just if you want both for the next meeting, the police department as well as city hall.
Could be two separate meetings,
Two
it's,
separate.
if it's
Two separate.
whatever is convenient for staff.
And the water costs.
The water is a third item, the drinking water plant update, so update on the plant. And Roosevelt, I'm trying to understand
Are we on the plan?
Cost,
job change orders.
for the distribution system.
And yes.
Okay.
And you know, we talk about the AI and not the AI, but
But on the distribution system,
the
do you wanna
thing that
know?
runs like the pipe.
Didn't we just have an update on the new waters treatment plant?
Yeah,
There was,
2 meetings ago.
there was for the PFAS, remember with the change order?
Yeah.
We had the guy come in, he showed us the construction site and how things were
Yes.
developing.
Right, we're the,
But
We
there
don't
was
have the
before
trench
the change
update.
order.
Sorry?
That was before the change order.
Oh.
And literally, I think we had a presentation on a Monday and on Wednesday, same week, it was in May, there was the EPA released the statement that they would keep the 4 parts per trillion because they was still unknown because the new administration changed. So everybody was hoping there would be 10 maybe, they would raise the number up. But they kept, so this happened the same week. So there must be in May when there was updates on the, and then now we know we have to meet 4 parts per trillion. But the EPA gave them a little bit more time to meet those requirements.
So the people have more time, you still have to meet it, but it's got more time to get there. So we have to have a discussion about how,
How that's gonna affect, because now there was revision to the rule.
Peter, we see you.
And so, Peter, do you have any questions?
No, on that point you were just talking about, we were told that they were gonna run the test, they bring in a test rig,
right,
as I understood it, to run the test on the water that the plant is going to be using to see if how they would configure the the balance of the equipment to ensure that the PFAS standard was met. So what I would be interested in is hearing as soon as possible what that test has shown. And it is supposed to be conducted this month.
Yeah, August, yeah.
So that one, you go to
Okay.
September.
So the drinking water treatment plant update, along with there was also article in the Sun Sentinel, I don't know if you remember, so about the PFAS, reimbursement from the 3M and DuPont companies, and I don't recall how much what Lauderdale received in the first phase, but there was some millions allocated already to the city. So I would like to know where we're standing with that settlement, how much money as a city we are receiving, and how it will be allocated. Because I'll be very careful, this money can be spent anyway the city decides. Doesn't have to go back to the utilities, although utilities have to build that treatment plant. The city can put it towards sidewalks, towards trees, parks. So I would like to know what's the planning with the reimbursement that the city received for having this PFAS in the drinking water.
Answer.
I think we should have a meeting with Raquel Williams. She'll be able to answer a lot of these questions. Raquel Williams,
Carl Williams?
Raquel Williams.
Raquel.
She should be someone we get
Raquel
answers from.
Williams.
And she also mentioned that I thought they decided on a tunnel, and they have not actually decided on a tunnel or a bridge still. Which is a big one.
Nancy, I see your hand up. Nancy, please.
The city manager put out what we call a commission information memo today regarding the PFAS study, which the Infrastructure Task Force Advisory Committee's liaison can send out to the group so that you can get an update on how the PFAS settlement is being distributed. And to your other question about can it be spent on anything, the answer is yes, it's not limited to the water and sewer fund.
PFAS.
So I would request that your administrative support provides you with that memo by email under separate.
Thank you, Nancy. Okay, thank you.
I want to state that PFAS can be reduced dramatically by the proper filtration process that this new plant is going to have. It's picking the right media feed filtering system that will remove the type of PFAS that we have in here dramatically.
Isn't it a combination of the ion exchange and the filtration?
The
It's a
filtration.
combination of the two?
It's, as far as I know, it's basically the filtration is the key thing on that.
Not necessarily, can be achieved by both.
Yeah, there's different
By ion exchange
variations.
only, by the membrane only. I think they tried to do the combination because to reduce the cost. And not only that, what we heard last time, there was no discussion about the PFAS when the plant was in the design. So right now they're looking to the change order to pick the right treatment. Yes. So
That's why they're testing, because they need to figure out what they need to do.
correct.
Right.
What
What's the ratio?
material, right,
And there is also different in the ion exchange media itself, like the treatment process is called ion exchange, but has a different media, it depends what you put in that vessel. You can put the activated carbon, you can put the polyfluoro, media. There's a resins that they colorless +2 that the North Lauderdale is testing. So there's a lot of testing to select the best media. That also can be different, right? You're building a vessel in the ion exchange, but whatever you put inside to filter that water, and you're gonna have to replace, you're gonna replace every 3 months, every 6 months, that's also cost. So that's what they need right now. But
Because
we find out next month. Nancy, I see your hand, do you still wanna talk? Sorry. Nancy? Hearing none, okay. Ralph, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, basically what we were saying was that the different PFAS and you get it down below what the, what the minimum requirement is allowed on that, or the maximum allowed in your drinking.
Okay, well, we will ask for the plant update anyway.
Yeah, so that would be
We
the
will get a
question.
copy of the PFAS settlement from the email distribution, but the plant update will have a request. Alright, I'm hearing the last item, Roosevelt, AI labor
The
and
infusion,
replacement.
yes, infusion of the AI system into the labor force and in the technology that we are talking about when we talk about controlling the water and the sewer and everything else, because it's gonna be everything. It's gonna be a part of everything that the city does. And I want to know how it's gonna be managed. Do we have anybody on staff now that know what the hell that thing can do? And if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, then what correction can we make?
So
I
are you
don't
worried
know.
about like cybersecurity or that?
I'm worried about, I'm not worried about outside influence on AI. I'm worried about AI influencing on staff and technology that's already in place.
I'm not understanding your question, Roosevelt. Is there a specific, like, AI is going to run the water treatment plant and that's what your question is about, or? I
Not
don't know.
necessarily run it, but how much of an influence would it have on decision making? On those who are in charge of running it?
So Roosevelt, we're gonna have some updates on the plant, on the new plant. Do you mind to keep that for the next meeting question? Okay, because we don't really know who to ask. We're gonna have somebody from city manager office next meeting, we're gonna have somebody from public works. Maybe we can ask AI through the presentations.
I don't think that's an answer to one. Not one person's gonna have an
Yeah.
answer.
I know, it's.
We gotta keep in mind too.
It's getting out of hand. AI, and I should say getting out of hand, it's already out.
Okay, and I heard Lindsay, you mentioned something about the tunnel.
Yes, I thought they decided on a tunnel. Sorry, I thought there was a decision made for the tunnel
For the,
several months ago.
for the train tunnel or?
Yes, and then I heard there actually was not
I don't think so.
a decision made. And there's still not enough funding.
It's not decided yet.
Yes, that would be,
I could have swore I saw.
well, that would be
Voted
the
on.
question to the staff. If there are any updates on the design of the tunnel, the train railroad tunnel, right? And if there was any, we would like to hear. If there was none, we just wanna check because there's
Has
some
the
discrepancies
has
in
the
there.
final decision been made that it will be a tunnel?
No,
That's the
bridge,
question.
tunnel,
We don't know
nobody
that.
dictates.
Right, so we can't ask about the tunnel,
We gotta-
because it may not be.
What's their decision
But that's-
regarding the tunnel and or bridge?
Yeah, will it be a tunnel or bridge?
If there was any decision, but that also city manager office.
And they'll have information on that settlement and how they're allocating the funds,
The PFAS?
for all the waste water. There's a couple things that in our last meeting, not here, in a separate meeting, but with how they're going to prioritize all of the money in the city, which is very interesting and pointing out to what you would like to see and know.
The state settlement with the city.
Yes. And then something towards allocating funds to like an emergency fund. I think we need someone here to go over all of those things.
I don't know which
I
set.
think she's talking about the proposed budget.
I haven't looked at that actually, but okay. It might be, okay,
So there's
but I think we should look over that.
the discussion about prioritizing the neighborhoods for stormwater management. That's gonna be presented at city commission either the end of this month or the beginning, I think Dr. Gassman said the beginning of September, where they'll have that recommendation from the consultant about prioritizing the neighborhoods for the stormwater management. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
No? Okay, sorry.
Well, let's find out the timeline. I think it's a lot. I think we have a police station, we have a city hall, we have a drinking water plant, and we have a town.
Here.
So we're gonna hold the AI, and we're gonna hold the settlement of the waste, right now. We're gonna have a settlement for the drinking water plus. Okay, anything else, members?
Peter?
Peter? Yes.
Yeah, just on that point that Lindsay raised, when they approved the budget, I think Lindsay is basically correct that there was this 10 million that I think came from that settlement that we've been talking about to do with the PFAS, and they allocated that basically to an emergency fund. And left it like that. They didn't specifically allocate it to any one project. It's we don't have an emergency fund at present, so we will put it there. So I think what Lindsay was saying is basically correct.
Okay, good, so looks like we will have a copy of the city manager memo, so there will be some answers in that memo. But I don't recall the numbers, how much was the settlement, there was a couple of cities, but I know they can allocate this money whenever they wish, so that doesn't have to go back to utilities, although it's from the drinking water. Okay,
And
we good?
the revenue, it's saving the city, consider. Revolution, whatever. Our nine breaks.
Yes. You're talking about the wastewater consent order.
Yes.
So we don't have information yet.
That's that settlement is.
Now, that would be a fine for us to pay to the state.
Right.
But we know that when Omar was here, that there was something coming up, but we don't know if there was final. So we can ask the public works staff if the consent order for the wastewater, the sanitary sewer overflow has been finalized by the DEP.
I think the plan was we were gonna negotiate with the state.
Correct, we knew it is coming.
Exchange an acceleration of our project, not have to give the state money, but to give them back an action.
I think that's what he said, yeah.
Yes, they can do projects in kind, but we don't even know if there was a finalized. Lara, do you know anything about this?
No.
Yes, the DEP takes the time to work with this kind of work on the road for the last 3 years. Maybe, but we don't know the conditions of the consent. If it was final or not, we would like to know. Thank you. Anything else?
We're done.
And we're gonna request that the city manager come back here and meet with us.
That's the last one?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so officially there was request from the member to have a city manager meet with the task force. Okay, so
I will answer a lot of the questions you
Are
have.
you requesting a special meeting or requesting?
No. our regular meeting to attend one of our regular. Okay, thank you. So we do have 5 items. Anything else?
I have one quick question.
Yes.
Last meeting, you guys discussed whether or not you were going to have the September 8th meeting. Do you plan to have that September 8th meeting?
It's gonna be about first and the late day.
Oh, first is the Labor Day. So the
You mentioned that Marta, you might be on vacation, you might be out.
Yes, I will be on vacation, Pete will be on vacation, so if the first is a Labor Day,
We can see vacation, that's not a problem.
so if, I have a question, if the first is a Labor Day, when would be the next meeting? Is that the,
The
on the
meeting
eighth?
is currently scheduled for the 8th, yes.
I'll be back from my vacation. Have a good news.
Okay.
So is the wish of the members to have a meeting on the September 8th as scheduled?
Yes.
I've got October. I
Okay,
will be
You
there.
can.
Yes.
Okay.
so we will keep September 8th. Peter, are you gonna be available on September 8th?
No, I don't think I can do, potentially I could do a remote meeting, but I don't think I'm committed to. I think it is just one in the year. But I'll check that.
Okay, all right.
And Marta, you're not here either on the 8th?
No, I'm here.
Or you are
I'm
here?
coming back. I'll be at work.
Okay, so we're all right.
Coming back Saturday. So Sunday I'm rest. Come back 6. I thought I would not be here. Good job to me. All right, ladies, thank you so much. Okay, 3:57, meeting, do we have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
You don't need to.
I do need to, okay, the meeting adjourned, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Enjoy London, wherever, England.
Bye.
Doodle.
I jumped the gun a little there, I need to like backpedal and remember where I was
Teach
going
me
with that.
Yeah.
Yes, I could answer a lot of questions. Thank you. See you next month.
Take care.
Thank you. But looks like it's like small, you know, this
Recording stopped.
Okay, thank you so much.
Don't forget to sign.
Thank you.